This insightful session, ladies and gentlemen. Dear guests, of course, right now coming up on our schedule is our opening ceremony for the forum. In order for that to happen, it will be happening within the upcoming minutes. So kindly stand by, stay tuned, and stay with us in this hall until the arrival of His Highness and the commencing of our opening ceremony. إذا حضورنا الكريم مع ختام هذه الجلسة لا تفصلنا سوى بضع دقائق عن بدء حفل الافتتاح لهذا المنتدى. سيبدأ حفل الافتتاح مع وصول صاحب السمو، وإلى وصوله نرجو من الحضور الكريم البقاء في هذه القاعة ريثما نكون مستعدين للبدء، وشكرا جزيلا لكم.
يسلط منتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة 2020 الضوء على قضايا أساسية ومحورية، ويستشرف المستقبل مع أبرز النخب الأكاديمية والعلمية والبحثية في دولة الإمارات والوطن العربي والعالم، وتحت شعار الحكومة المرنة والاستعداد للمستقبل. يسجل المنتدى ريادته كمنصة رئيسية تسهم في تحقيق رؤية الإمارات وتطلعاتها نحو المستقبل. يناقش المنتدى العديد من القضايا المطروحة والتحديات التي تواجه الإدارات الحكومية إقليمياً وعالمياً بهدف تحقيق الرفاه والسعادة للشعوب وفقاً لمعايير مؤشر السعادة العالمي للأمم المتحدة. يقرأ المنتدى مشهد الإدارة الحكومية مستقبلاً على صعيد الأفكار الاستراتيجية والرؤى والإجراءات التنفيذية بهدف بلورة خارطة عمل لحكومات المنطقة والعالم تتسم بالمرونة المطلوبة لمواجهة متطلبات التنمية المتسارعة. منتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة 2020، جسر يربطنا بالمستقبل.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سمو الشيخ منصور بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم رئيس مجلس دبي الرياضي، أصحاب المعالي والسعادة، ضيوفنا الأعزاء، أيها الجمع الكريم، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. نرحب بكم جميعا في افتتاح النسخة الرابعة من منتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة للعام 2020، ونشكر لكم حضوركم ومشاركتكم القيمة لنا اليوم في هذه المنصة الحوارية والمعرفية الهامة، والمناقشات التي يقودها أبرز الخبراء والرواد من مختلف أنحاء العالم بهدف تسليط الضوء على أداء السياسات العامة وتزويد قادة الحكومات وصناع القرار من مختلف أنحاء العالم بالحلول والممارسات المقترحة للتكيف مع المتغيرات المتسارعة ووضع الأنظمة والتشريعات الملائمة لتحقيق أهداف التنمية المستدامة وتعزيز أطر وآليات العمل الحكومي في المستقبل من أجل تحقيق السعادة وجودة الحياة للمجتمع بأكمله. والآن حضورنا الكريم، يسعدنا أن ندعو معالي حميد القطامي رئيس مجلس أمناء كلية محمد بن راشد للإدارة الحكومية لإلقاء كلمته الافتتاحية، فليتفضل مشكورا ولنرحب بمعاليه جميعا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سمو الشيخ منصور بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم رئيس مجلس دبي الرياضي، أصحاب السعادة السيدات والسادة، السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. يشرفنا بداية أن نتقدم بكل الشكر والامتنان إلى سمو الشيخ حمدان بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم ولي عهد دبي رئيس المجلس التنفيذي لرعاية سموه الكريمة أعمال الدورة الرابعة لمنتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة. كما نتقدم بكل الشكر والعرفان إلى سمو الشيخ منصور بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم لتفضل سموه بافتتاح هذا الحدث وحضوره، وهو ما يكفل نجاح المنتدى في تحقيق أهدافه. ونرحب بكم أيها الحضور الكريم أطيب ترحيب، ونشكر لكم تواجدكم معنا اليوم، ونخص بالذكر القادة وصناع القرار وأصحاب الفكر والخبراء ضيوف دولتنا الكرام. ومن دون شك فإن اختيار كلية محمد بن راشد للإدارة الحكومية عنوان الحوكمة المرنة والاستعداد للمستقبل ليكون هو محور ارتكاز هذه الدورة هو اختيار في محله ووقته. استلهمته الكلية من تجربة حكومتنا النموذجية الناجحة التي تعد واحدة من أفضل حكومات العالم بفضل رعاية وتوجيهات صاحب السمو الشيخ خليفة بن زايد آل نهيان رئيس الدولة حفظه الله، وأخيه صاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم نائب رئيس الدولة، رئيس مجلس الوزراء، حاكم دبي رعاه الله، وصاحب السمو الشيخ محمد بن زايد آل نهيان ولي عهد أبو ظبي، نائب القائد الأعلى للقوات المسلحة، وأصحاب السمو أعضاء المجلس الأعلى للاتحاد حكام الإمارات. سمو الشيخ منصور بن محمد الحضور الكريم، يأتي منتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة الذي رسخ مكانته كمنصة تفاعلية معرفية دولية بعد نجاحه خلال الدورات الثلاث الماضية في استضافة أكثر من 2000 شخصية قيادية محلية وعالمية و135 متحدثاً ناقشوا جميعاً ما يزيد على 50 موضوعاً حيوياً تفاعل معها أكثر من 16 مليون شخص على صفحات التواصل الاجتماعي. وينطلق المنتدى في دورته الجديدة بالتأكيد على أهمية الحكومة المرنة ومقومات النجاح والقوة الناعمة والسعادة وجودة الحياة والمرونة واستشراف المستقبل ومواكبة بيئة الأعمال الدولية. وجميعها يمثل المحاور الأساسية للمنتدى، وجميعها يعكس حجم التغيرات السريعة المتواصلة التي يشهدها العالم سياسياً واقتصادياً واجتماعياً، وضرورة مواكبة الشعوب والمجتمعات لتلك المتغيرات بوتيرة أسرع وتوجهات جديدة مبتكرة ونظرة ثاقبة لما يجب أن نكون عليه في المستقبل. وربما هذا ما يهدف إليه المنتدى الذي يوفر مناخاً مميزاً للتفاعل وتبادل الخبرات والمعارف بين المشاركين، والبحث في متطلبات تحقيق أعلى درجات المرونة للحكومات، ومن ثم إيجاد الحلول والممارسات اللازمة للتكيف مع المتغيرات المتسارعة ومتطلبات العصر ومقتضيات الثورة الصناعية الرابعة، بما يحقق مرونة مستدامة في العمل الحكومي. وفي الختام يسعدنا أن نجدد الشكر والجزيل ووافر العرفان إلى سمو الشيخ منصور بن محمد لتفضله اليوم بافتتاح وحضور المنتدى، والشكر لكم أيها الحضور الكريم ورعاة المنتدى والداعمين له والقائمين على تنظيمه، وكل من أسهم في إخراجه بهذه الصورة المشرفة. وفقنا الله وإياكم لما فيه الخير، والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
الشكر الجزيل لمعالي حميد القطامي على هذه الكلمة، والشكر موصول أيضا لسمو الشيخ منصور بن محمد بن راشد آل مكتوم رئيس مجلس دبي الرياضي على تشريفه وحضوره معنا اليوم في افتتاح النسخة الرابعة من منتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة للعام 2020. شكرا لسموكم. إذا نرجو من حضورنا الكريم البقاء في القاعة إلى حين مغادرة سمو الشيخ، حيث سنستكمل مجريات منتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة في نسخته الرابعة، ونستكمل مجرياته الآن باللغة الإنجليزية. And now, ladies and gentlemen, as we continue the works of our forum, everything will be relayed to you right now in English. So kindly refer to the uses of your translation headsets, which will provide it to you on these seats at the entrance of this hall as well. Commencing as soon as the stage is set. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, a quick reminder on some housekeeping notes. First of all, your official hashtag for your participation on social media interaction with us is hashtag UAE PPF 2020. You will see it occasionally on the screen right here behind me. In addition to, at some points, we may have some polls to find out what your opinions are on our ongoing sessions through today. The QR codes will be displayed on the screens as well, and we, of course, forever encourage you to participate. Lastly, of course, just a reminder to keep our mobile phones on silent as to not disrupt the ongoing sessions, impulses, or any workshops going at the moment. Thank you very much. With that, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to introduce our third panel for the day. Delving into lessons from the UK, please join me in welcoming to the stage the moderator of this panel, Dean of MBRSG, Professor Raed Awamleh. Please welcome him.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أهلا بكم إلى هذه الحلقة النقاشية، جزء من منتدى الإمارات للسياسات العامة في نسخته الرابعة، ويتحدث عن الحكومة المرنة والاستعداد للمستقبل. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for being here and supporting our UAE Public Policy Forum in its fourth edition. Welcome to this session where we talk about lessons from the UK. It gives me great pleasure, first of all, to welcome Mr. Sonny Leong, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Civil Service College in London. Sonny has a lot of experience in the public sector and in social enterprise, and he's an observer of what's been happening in the UK. He's not here representing the UK view. He doesn't represent the government, but he has a perspective which we're interested in. His college does a lot of training, advising, coaching for public sector and public servants, not only in the UK, but also from around the world. So he's got a perspective that I think we can all benefit from in thinking about what has happened in the UK over the last, especially 12, 15 years, since the global financial crisis in 2008. Sonny, in 2014, for his public service, received the Commander of the British Empire Award from Her Majesty the Queen. Sonny, welcome.
Is this working? Well, thank you very much. I'm really delighted to be here this morning and to really participate in this two-day conference. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you very much, and it's important to note also that Sonny has a session tomorrow as well, in which he talks about skills for the future, especially for public servants. We will not steal the thunder from that show, but I do have a question on future skills that hopefully Sonny will enlighten us with his answers. As I said, the UK has gone through transformations, many changes over the last 12 years, a bit more, but 12 years, lots of political changes, lots of administrative changes, all that had an impact on the way the government works. And throughout this rich experience, of course, there had been some hits and misses. So the government had taken certain decisions, gone in certain directions, and decided to roll them back at some point. And I think that will the experience of that will help us try to understand the way of the future. The experience will be helpful not only to the UAE, but also to many governments around the world. So, Sonny, can you please tell us what happened over the last 12 years, especially what's your take on it, and what can we learn from it?
Thank you. Look, before I get into the discussion, as you rightly say, whatever I say is my personal observation. I'm here as Chief Executive of Civil Service College, so I'm not speaking on behalf of Her Majesty's government. Now, you rightly stated that in the last 12, 15 years, there have been a lot of reforms happening in the UK government. And let's start from, say, 2008, when we had a financial crash, so to speak. And as you know, the United Kingdom relies very heavily on financial services. So the financial crash really did impact on the UK's economy. And we obviously entered into a recession. And 2 years later, we had a general election. And the general election was tightly, obviously, fought between the respective political parties. And it ended up with a coalition government led by David Cameron. And the Conservative Party, led by David Cameron, obviously had a manifesto that wanted to reform the government itself. Now, park aside political ideology, whether it's big government, small government, the civil service in the UK, personally, I think it's a gold standard for most civil service in the world. It is impartial, so it is irrespective of which government or party comes into government, the civil service is there to serve the new government. So when the Conservative coalition government came in 2010, it had to also deliver a budget. And in view of the recession, the public sector was, I suppose, also impacted with the financial settlement. So most government departments had to make certain sacrifices in terms of budgetary cuts, and some departments was more affected than others itself. The long and short of it was the civil service had to think of new ways of doing things with less money. And like most organizations, sometimes it needs something big to allow us to really rethink our business, rethink our program of delivery and so on. So the civil service had to look at new ways to deliver its services and so on. So to a certain extent, it dragged to the table and say, look, with less money, what can we do? And one of the things that came up from a difficult period was the way that we deliver our services digitally. And I think that actually helped us focus on how we actually do our services, providing our services digitally on that front itself. So that was one aspect that I think brought us to the table by looking at new ways of delivering services.
Digital transformation, of course, has been the highlight of changes in the UK government. And as we heard this morning from experts, practitioners, agile government means a lot of things, including digital transformation, but it doesn't stop there, because it's about reducing bureaucracies, in some cases deregulation, and changing the culture and the mindset. When it comes to digital transformation, your able team coordinated a visit we've had from the school to London in November, and one of the key stops we had was at the Government Digital Services Office. And it's a fascinating story where in 2012, the UK had 1,882 websites delivering government services. And they made the decision to make them all just one. And in 4 years, they did that. And that was an amazing transformation, increased the service, updated user experience, and did a lot of things. However, they also mentioned to us something that I remember very clearly, that in 2012 in the UK, especially with digital services, they realized that they had a 19th century organizational structure, 20th century technology, and 21st century people's expectations. And to align all that was very difficult. I'm interested in your view on what has gone behind that, what's beyond that. It's not just a matter of changing websites. It's a grueling process, it's mindset, it's culture. What did they really do beyond the front end?
Yeah, I think any change really needs to be driven from the top. And in 2010, 2012, there was a political will to change the way government works. And the government also published a digital strategy paper. And it decided to open up government. So government's data was open. And as part of that strategy, the Government Digital Services was set up under the Secretary of State for Cabinet Office, the Right Honourable now Lord Mort. He basically drove that program, that whole digital program. And he gave the mandate that the GDS should be set up within 8 months and operational soon after that. And you are right in saying that before GDS, we had almost 2,000 individual respective government or government-related websites. Navigating through this website was cumbersome, it was clunky. Now we have one government website, .gov.uk. It's still constantly testing, beta testing. The user interface is simple. The user experience is fantastic based on research and surveys done. And now many transactions are conducted digitally. I'll cover this in my presentation tomorrow. But coming to your point, it has to be driven from the top and setting up a whole new department from scratch with very specialized skills. I've been privileged to visit GDS like yourself, Professor. GDS is not situated in Whitehall where most of the ministries are. It's located somewhere in East London. It's styled very much like the Googles and Facebooks. It's open 24/7. There are people coming in at different times to work. And these are the young people. These are the people not in suits like we wear. These are guys and girls in T-shirts and jeans and with earrings and whatever. But they are the creative people. They are the ones that brought the technology to the forefront of government.
Let me ask you again about the misses. We talked about hits and misses. GDS seems to be a hit, but there had been misses where cuts had gone too far and mistakes were made and things were changed again. Can you give us an example or two on that?
Well, one of the things that struck me first and foremost is I come from the private sector, and I've worked in big companies and small companies. And especially big companies, when a new CEO comes in and is under, I suppose, a lot of pressure to deliver for shareholder value, first thing they will look at is to cut staff. And I think this was also applied in the government sector itself when the various departments obviously had their budgets cut. I think some cuts as far as capacity, human resources, went a bit too far at the expense of delivering some services. And they soon realized that probably the cuts went too far and they had to re-employ some of these expertise and specialists on totally different contract because now they're coming in as consultants rather than a civil servant. So it's a totally different pay structure and everything else. Park aside how much the consultant fees are, but in terms of, I think, lessons learned, I think it was more a knee-jerk that, look, we've got to find cuts, and cutting stuff seems to be the easiest way of doing things. And I think everyone, sometimes, all of us, whether in the private or public sector, should reflect on this. When you cut something, something has to give.
And it also has to do with the message. You and I discussed this earlier in the morning and last week. And you mentioned that cuts sometimes are necessary, but they are not the key message. They cannot be the key message. The key message has got to be something else. And cuts are perhaps part of the strategy to achieve it because people generally, staff and people who receive service get very cynical and skeptical about budget cuts for budget cuts.
Yes, I think, look, we can do sort of reduction in expenses, in expenditure and all that. in a more positive way. I think cutting comes across as a negative way of doing it, and also at the same time, morale in a service. I mean, in UK, for example, the civil service, people who work in central government and some of the non-ministerial department. In 2010, there were about 500,000 civil servants, and now probably about 100,000 civil servants now. So there has been a reduction of about 100,000, but that's because the work has changed and so on and so forth. But at the same time, morale gets impacted, and productivity will also be impacted itself. And I suppose coupled with the fact that sometimes we get young politicians coming into ministerial role without too much experience outside, and telling someone who has got maybe 20, 30 years public sector experience that they're no good doesn't really help.
Moving on, one of the things we also discussed before was the idea or the implementation of a vision. How do you cascade a vision for a country as complex as the UK, with all of its multiple level governments and all the complex issues that it goes through, and the history and the legacies? How do you cascade one vision? Is a country at the size and the complexity of the UK able to develop a 50-year plan, a 100-year plan, have a vision and cascade it down?
I think this is a challenging question for the United Kingdom. I mean, I do envy the UAE when you have a 50-year vision. We're lucky if we get a 5-year vision because of the electoral cycle that we have in the United Kingdom. Having said that, I think all governments have to look at big infrastructure project that relates to certain sector. Take, for example, in UK, the National Health Service becomes like a religion. But we all know there is obviously things that we need to do to reform the service itself. But any political party that tries to sort of tinker or change with the health service do so at a political cost. Likewise, infrastructure like our roads, our rail, our even airports, for example, aviation, that takes more than 5-10 year vision. So sometimes I feel that because of the electoral cycle, we don't think long term. It's very much like, what message can we get out before the next election comes? Whereas civil servants, I mean, we have to sort of, implement the policy. At the end of the day, we are there to serve the political masters. And when they lose the election and another new government comes in, we might have to either carry on with what has been implemented by the last government, or the new government will say, let's cancel it. And that has happened in UK when the last Labour government wanted to bring in the identity card system. There are a lot of work that went into that. Billions of pounds were spent, and when the new government came in, they scrapped the whole thing. So lots of money was lost, and now suddenly they realize that perhaps that might have been the wrong decision, but there you are. That's the nature of politics in the UK.
That's how they learn. Yes. One more topic we'd like you to touch upon is, again, part of your discussion tomorrow, or part of your presentation tomorrow, is when we talk about public service, we talk about government, and we sometimes tend to forget that it's all about people who are the public servants. So this morning we talked about agility in terms of simplification, digitization, reducing bureaucracy, all sorts of things, and highlighted one of the challenges, at least in the first panel, was scalability. So you do experiments, say, in an innovation center, but you're not able to actually scale it at the whole spectrum of government. So you've got pockets of excellence. Another issue that we don't talk about much is the future of working government and the generational differences. The millennials, research tells you, people who were born after 1996, in particular, literally think in a different way. But we're still talking about old organizational structures, and I'm talking worldwide. We're still talking about all those organization structures, job description, job specifications. We're talking about time to come in and time to leave. Is this sustainable? Is this serving agile government?
Well, coming from the private sector into the public sector, two things I've noticed. One is there are very, very intelligent, talented people in the public sector. So sometimes when the media play out and say the the public sector is, useless and all that. I think there's obviously a lot of misinformation there. So there are fantastic people working in the public sector because they want to make a difference. Likewise, there's a lot of public sector people that don't understand how the private sector works, and sometimes they say it's all for profit and nothing else. I think that's wrong as well. Now, you're right. We all have to recognize that the world is changing. AI, robotics, technology is here, and it will also impact not only the work in the private sector, but also how the public sector works. Now, we all know that in the public sector, probably 40% or more of work done in the public sector is repetitive. Either it's of processing this or processing that. Now, we know that those jobs will eventually go because there are things, automation that can do that, which means then there will be probably less people in the public sector itself. But having said that, the different cohort of people will come in with totally different skill. And what's happening now in the UK public sector civil service sphere is that there's a lot of specialization rather than being a generalist whereby you come in and then you do the various things across department. Now there's a lot of specialism brought in. So at a very young stage in your career, you'll probably be asked to specialize whether it's procurement, whether it's policy, economics, law, and so on and so forth. And this has got its fantastic advantages that it brings people together with similar mindset to think of new ways of doing certain things. Yes, the millennials that are going to enter into the service will look at the way the public sector currently works, and it's probably unappealing to them. And that's why we, people in the public sector, will have to compete with people in the private sector, mainly the news of technology companies like Google and Facebook and others, who are constantly getting these young people, creating a work-life balance, and also at the same time, encouraging them to work in teams. And we in the public sector have to start looking at what makes the young millennial want to work for the public sector. And also at the same time, we need to look at the way that they're rewarded and the way that actually they have find some form of career progression within the public sector itself. The status quo needs to be looked at. The status quo cannot hold on if you want to attract the young, bright people into the sector.
Of course, thank you, Sonny. Of course, we can't end this conversation without talking about Brexit. And we need to do that because it has an impact on the way government works. So in your view, how will the UK government change over the next few years to actually take into account all the changes resulting from Brexit, whether social, economic, political, generational, as you mentioned?
I wish I've got a crystal ball, but there you are. Look, it's been around for the last 3 years. We've had 3 general elections in the last 4 or 5 years, and 3 different prime ministers. So Prime Minister Johnson now, we had an election in December. He won with a massive mandate. He's got an 80-seat majority in the House of Commons. And his message during the election was to get Brexit done. I think it's probably an oversimplification of saying getting Brexit done. So what he did was to ensure that the United Kingdom leaves the European Union at the end of January 31st, 2020. That means we have now come out from the Union, but we still haven't got Brexit done yet because we still need to negotiate a trading relationship with the EU. And as it stands, this expires at the end of December 2020, 31st December 2020. If we do not get a deal with the European Union by December 31st, 2020, we fall out, and we fall out under WTO arrangements. If we need an extension to the 31st December deadline, we need to give the EU notification of extension by 30th of June 2020. So far, from what I've read and heard, he's not doing that or doesn't want to do that. He still feels or believes that there is going to be a deal at the end of the year. Now, that's going to take some time. That's my personal position here. Now, as far as Brexit is concerned, It's divided the country more right across the middle. It's divided the political parties, and it's also divided parliamentarians as well in both houses. Now that it's been settled that we have left the European Union, but we are now negotiating a arrangement with EU, I don't think it's solved or brought the two parties together. So I think Boris Johnson's government wants to try to heal the division, and he's also won quite a number of seats in the north of England, which is previously predominantly Labour. So he may need to sort of obviously offer some of the people up there who also incidentally voted to leave the EU as well. So he may have to come up with policies to satisfy the voters up in the north itself. But having said that, I think the country has to come together to move forward. If it doesn't come together, then I think it's going to be very tricky for this government. To add to that, the Irish government had a general election 2 weeks ago. And for the first time in the history of the Irish government, a left-leaning political party, Sinn Féin, won the majority of the seats. And they have said that if they form the government with another coalition party, one of the things they want to do is to have a referendum in Northern Ireland whether there should be a united Ireland. And it's also the nationalists in Scotland is also clamoring for a second referendum on whether Scotland should be part of the United Kingdom. I hope this is not the start of the breakup of the United Kingdom. That's my hope.
Well, it seems that the election, just the recent election, which everybody hoped will settle all questions, hasn't actually settled most of these questions.
No, we haven't.
Well, thank you, Sonny. Just before we close, I'd like to remind everyone of our new edition of the Dubai Policy Review. It has 10 articles of global thought leaders, including global thought leaders from the UAE, and it has a number of articles on agile government. One of them is from Latin America, the Latin American Development Bank, with very specific recommendations and lessons on how the Arab countries can learn from the Latin American experience. And I think with your contribution, Sonny, and other contributions today, I think we have much more insight, many more insights that can help us into the future. Thank you, Sonny. Always a pleasure to meet you. Appreciate it. We look forward to tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for this panel discussion, ladies and gentlemen, and our thanks for His Excellency. Our thanks to our professor as well for their thoughts. Of course, we could elaborate a lot on what was discussed right here, specifically on the very end about Brexit and all and its effect on governments. But we will have a lot to discuss over the lunch break, which we will invite you to have right now. And we'll be back in 1 hour for our next Impulse. Thank you all very much. Enjoy your lunch. I hear there are some shrimp steaks, burger sliders, and a lot more than that. So, bon appetit. Don't forget to be here on time. Thank you very much.